This is the story of my first Camino. In September 2022, I did the Camino Portugues from Porto to Santiago de Compostela. The Camino is a historic pilgrimage, a spiritual journey. It starts each day putting my pack on, putting one step forward. The Camino leads from cathedrals, churches, and shrines and ends at the cathedral in Santiago. I never knew what I'd find as I walked out the door. Maybe a motorcycle gang, maybe a beggar. All kinds of things are out on the trail. For me, it was a chance to put things behind me and figure out a way to move forward. I wanted to figure out and come to terms with what I'm here for and what I want to do for the rest of my life. It's a great way to spend a lot of time walking 10 plus miles a day, see where I'm going to go. The Camino Portugues starts on the western edge of continental Europe. Trails from all over Europe and especially Spain lead to Santiago, the burial ground of James the Apostle of Jesus. I started in Porto, a small port town where port wine comes from, and the coastal Camino goes from Porto to Padrón. Porto is based on the Douro River. The city has about 1.7 million people in the metro area, and the first day's hike was to Matosinhos, which is the new port town. It's a rusty, crusty old town. I was happy to be on the trail after years of delay from COVID, and then finally I reached the Atlantic Ocean. The wind and waves cooled me off, and it was beautiful to see the old forts and the new ports. Hurricane Danielle was really stirring up some waves, and I thought this lady was going to bite it, especially during her photo shoot as she got up on these rocks. She seemed to survive, though, and lived to wash herself up in front of the sea. To make this a spiritual journey, I did do quite a bit of Qigong, and I'm still in the metro area, so I would have little visitors while I'm doing this. This lady was cleaning her dogs in the ocean. She had 3 dogs and was throwing them in the ocean. But this little guy wanted to see what I was up to. Every town had a church, and that reminded me of my mother and my youth quite a bit. And every church had a cemetery, and that would make me ponder life. I'd catch up with other people, other pilgrims, and walk with them, but they inevitably went a lot farther than I did. I was only going about 10 miles a day, and they were going more like 15, 16. So every day, people would pass me and keep going. I was happy going at my snail's pace, though. I got time to look at pretty rocks or shrines to St. James, windmills, and windsurfers. The days on the coast added up, and I soon had my first blister on my pinky toe. I would have had more, but I had this contraption. The worst thing was the bed bugs. You know you have bed bugs when they bite 3 in a row. Another way to remember this is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you ever run into these bloodsuckers, turn the other way. Here's what they look like, and if you see them on your bed, do not go in there. They will haunt you. They will eat you at night while you're sleeping. It is horrible. I never even saw the little buggers, and they got into my stuff, so I took them from hotel to hotel. Oh my God, it could have ruined my trip, but I persevered. I always had the trail though, so I kept walking and walking, about 70 miles in the first week. I took a day off, kept walking, and I finally ran into some people who were hiking about my space. This is Jenna on the left with the big red hair, and Marilyn on the right. They're 2 sisters, grew up in Minnesota, used to be Minnesota Viking cheerleaders, and now I had somebody to have dinner with, so we had a great time. They're a lot of fun. Since we were only hiking about 10 miles a day, we had time at night to go to different museums, like this Marco Museum with featured Lero, and of course Jenna would kick up high. The second week is when I found my rhythm, hiking about 10 miles a day throughout Spain with and without the Twisted Sisters. A lot more people joined the trail on the last 60 miles where you can get your credential, and days just started speeding up and blurring into each other, and it went really fast. When life gets a little bit hectic, too many people, too much, it's good to take the path less traveled. Marilyn and Jenna had planned to do the spiritual way, so I decided to join them on this less traveled path. This is my guidebook that I used for the Camino Portugues. Here I tracked my daily walks to and from everywhere, my mileage. This is the map I wanted to show you though. The Camino Portugues really starts here in Lisbon, but I started in Porto here. Here's the blown up version. So I did the coastal route, walking right along the coast all this way. That took about a week to go this far. Then I took a day of rest once I got back into Spain here, so a week in Portugal. Most people hike this coastal or the central way here, but I was on the coastal, so I'm back in Spain hiking all this. When these two converge, there's a lot of traffic. So what I did, and with the Twisted Sisters, was go the spiritual way here. It's a less traveled path. On the first day of the spiritual way, I hiked on my own and found a nice peaceful place to reflect, and just found it really nice to be on my own and thinking about the purpose of the trip, which I'd said was to reflect on the passing of my wife Grace about 5 years ago and my mother about 35 years ago. And I did find some peace with that. I just remembered them a lot. When I'm eating good food, I thought about Grace a lot. When I was in church and stuff, I thought about my mother. It was a very nice time to reflect and put that kind of behind me and focus on what's the future, which is environmental documentaries. I plan to create a group of people to make a series of documentaries about how we can save the planet since we're destroying it right now. It seems like a worthy goal. Well, the trail was never far behind, and I continued on at more of a slug's pace now. Felt really strong in my hiking. The main reason the spiritual variant is spiritual is because the Monasterio de Santa Maria. This is a 12th century monastery that's run by Cistercian nuns now. And what made it really special was the Vespers, which is like singing prayers that these nuns do. I couldn't record the video, but I did sneak in this one photo of the nuns. They're in their 80s and 90s, it seemed, except one was about 20-something. I can only describe it as a religious experience when I heard them sing. The hairs on my neck stood on end. Their beautiful singing was just outstanding and uplifting. I hadn't really been to church since I was probably 16 years old, or at least that I found meaning in it. So it's been a very interesting result of the Camino. Another interesting aspect of this spiritual way is that you get to go on a boat ride. Supposedly St. James went on the same boat ride. After we got off the boat, there was only a couple more days of hiking till I finally reached Santiago. Nice. Well, the climactic finish of the Santiago de Compostela is the cathedral. So we are excited, did a lot of different photo shoots here, but it was such a meaningful trip. I sure hope some of you can do it if you're up for it. I'm going to go back in a couple years is kind of the plan right now, do the Camino Norte from Bilbao. I could have told a lot more stories than I did in my daily posts during the journey. A big thanks to Marilyn and Jenna too. It's just an amazing adventure, a great thing to do in life for me. Fit right into my plans. So hope you enjoyed this. Have a good one.